People laughed when Madison Cole said it. Some thought she was joking. Others whispered that the CEO of Cole Enterprises had finally lost her mind. But when she slammed her glass of bourbon on the mahogany desk that Friday night and declared she would marry the next girl who stepped into her office, Madison wasn't laughing. She was dead serious. Maybe that was the cruelest part, because fate has a way of mocking you when you're at your most desperate. The next morning, as if the universe had been eavesdropping on her drunken proclamation, the door creaked open. Madison straightened her collar, prepared for a secretary and in turn maybe a client. Instead, in walked a girl who shouldn't have been there at all, the new night shift security guard. Her name was Riley. Young, maybe mid-20s, with storm-gray eyes and a smile too gentle for the hardened city. She wore the company-issued navy uniform, her hair pulled into a messy bun as if she hadn't cared to impress anyone. She didn't even look up at first, busy holding a clipboard. But when she finally met Madison's gaze, time cracked in half. Madison powerful, untouchable Madison forgot to breathe. The room went quiet, except for the hammering in her chest. She was supposed to laugh, to dismiss her own reckless words from last night, but Riley wasn't like the women who usually surrounded her at cocktail parties or board meetings. There was no designer perfume, no sharp smile hiding ulterior motives. Riley looked real. Real in a way that felt dangerous. "You're not supposed to be here," Madison said, her voice sharper than she intended. Riley blinked, confused but unbothered. "Maintenance asked me to drop this report off. Sorry if I interrupted." She placed the folder on the desk with steady hands, clearly unaware she had just become the center of a storm she hadn't signed up for. Madison's words from last night echoed in her head. "I'll marry the next girl who walks into my office." And here she was. The cruel joke of fate hung in the air, invisible but undeniable. "Wait," Madison called, just as Riley turned to leave. The security guard paused, one hand on the doorknob, brows lifting in polite question. And Madison, for the first time in years, didn't know what to say. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd spent her life controlling narratives, silencing boardrooms with a single glance, winning hostile takeovers like a game of chess. Yet with this one ordinary girl standing in her office, she was speechless. "Your name," Madison finally managed. "What's your name?" "Riley," she said simply. "Riley James." The name settled into Madison's chest like a secret she wasn't supposed to keep. That night, Madison lay awake in her penthouse, city lights flickering through floor-to-ceiling windows. She couldn't stop replaying the moment Riley looked at her, not with fear, not with awe, but with something dangerously close to curiosity. It was the kind of look that made Madison feel seen, stripped of all her armor. And maybe that was why it terrified her. The following days turned into a silent war. Madison tried to avoid Riley, tried to bury herself in contracts and late-night calls with investors. But she kept seeing her at the lobby, checking visitor badges, sometimes patrolling the parking lot with a flashlight. Always calm, always steady. And every time, Madison felt her carefully constructed world tilt a little more. Her friends mocked her. "The guard?" One of them snorted over martinis. "You could have anyone in Manhattan, Maddie, and you're staring at the help?" But it wasn't about anyone. It was about Riley. The way she leaned against the security desk, reading dog-eared novels during quiet shifts. The way she treated everyone with the same quiet respect, from delivery drivers to billion-dollar clients. And the way she looked at Madison not as a CEO, not as a prize to be won, but as a woman. For Madison, that was both intoxicating and unbearable. One rainy night, fate cornered them again. Madison stayed late at the office, poring over documents until the storm outside drowned the city in silver. When the power flickered and the elevator froze halfway to the lobby, it was Riley who pried open the doors, flashlight cutting through the dark. "You okay?" Riley asked, offering her hand. Madison hesitated, then took it. The contact was electric, warm, grounding. And for a terrifying second, Madison wanted to hold on longer than she should. "Thanks," she said, her voice lower than usual. Riley only smiled, and in that smile Madison felt the ground beneath her shift again. She didn't know it yet, but her careless declaration, the drunken promise to marry the next girl who walked into her office, had just rewritten her fate. Madison told herself it was nothing. A moment, a flicker, a fleeting connection in the middle of a storm. She was a CEO, a woman built on logic and strategy, not teenage fantasies. But logic didn't explain why she caught herself waiting for Riley's shifts to start. Or why, at 3 in the morning when she couldn't sleep, she found herself staring at the memory of that flashlight beam and Riley's steady hand pulling her out of the elevator. Weeks passed and rumors spread. Someone must have overheard her reckless declaration, because whispers crawled through the company. The boss is looking at the new guard, people said. She's serious. This could be something real. Madison fought the gossip with icy stares and curt dismissals, but it only grew louder. The board hated it. They saw Riley as a distraction, a liability. At a tense meeting, one of the older men leaned forward, sneering, "You cannot risk everything for some girl in a uniform. It's beneath you, Madison." Beneath her. She smiled then, sharp and dangerous, but inside she was unraveling. Because as much as she wanted to deny it, Riley wasn't beneath her, Riley was above everything. But the pressure worked its poison. Madison pulled back, colder than she had ever been. She stopped lingering in the lobby, stopped meeting Riley's eyes when they passed. She buried herself in mergers, press conferences, everything to drown out the one truth she didn't want to face. She was falling. And falling made her weak. Riley noticed. One night, as Madison rushed past the security desk without a word, Riley called out, her voice clear in the empty lobby. "What are you so afraid of?" Madison froze. The words sliced through her like a blade. She turned, eyes locked on Riley's calm, unwavering gaze. "I'm not afraid," Madison lied. "Yes, you are," Riley said softly. "Not of me. Of yourself." The silence stretched, charged and dangerous. Madison wanted to lash out, to end it, but instead, for the first time in her adult life, she felt her throat tighten with something like tears. So she did what she always did, she ran. For days she avoided Riley completely. She told herself it was the right choice. The safe choice. But the hollow ache in her chest only grew worse. She remembered Riley's voice, the honesty of it, and hated herself for craving more. Then came the night of the gala. Madison, radiant in a black satin gown, stood beneath chandeliers and cameras, pretending to belong to this glittering world. Her smile was perfect, her laughter rehearsed. But across the room she saw Riley working security for the event, scanning the crowd, not even looking at her. And for the first time Madison felt the weight of her empire as a prison. It hit her with brutal clarity. She could have the world at her feet, but if Riley wasn't in it, none of it mattered. When the speeches ended and the music swelled, Madison made a choice. She crossed the ballroom, ignoring the stares, the whispers, the board members who would crucify her. She walked straight to Riley. "Dance with me," Madison said. Riley's eyes widened. "Madison, this isn't—" "I don't care." Madison cut her off, voice trembling but firm. "I made a promise once. A stupid promise. But for the first time I think I want to keep it." The world seemed to hold its breath as Madison reached out her hand. Riley hesitated, then took it. The touch was familiar, grounding like that night in the elevator. Only this time Madison didn't let go. They moved to the edge of the dance floor, where the light softened and the music wrapped around them like a secret. Madison's hand rested at Riley's waist. Riley's arm settled at her shoulder. For a moment it was just them, two women breathing the same fragile, dangerous air. "You'll ruin yourself," Riley whispered, though her fingers tightened against Madison's arm. "Maybe," Madison admitted, "but I'll ruin myself for the truth. And the truth is, Riley James, I don't want this empire if I can't have you beside me." The words hung between them, raw and terrifying. Riley searched her eyes, as if trying to decide whether to believe her. Then slowly a smile curved her lips. Not mocking, not cautious, just real. And Madison knew she was lost. When their lips finally met, it wasn't the desperate clash of two broken people. It was something softer, deep-era surrender Madison had never given anyone else. The kiss was a promise, not of perfection but of something real. The crowd gasped, cameras flashed, but Madison didn't care. For the first time in years she wasn't the CEO, the empire builder, the cold woman on the pedestal. She was just Madison. And Riley held her as if that was enough. The fallout came, of course. Angry shareholders, scandalized headlines, board members demanding her resignation. But Madison didn't flinch. She fought, as she always had. But this time she wasn't fighting for power. She was fighting for love. And real love was worth more than any empire. Months later, as spring warmed the city streets, Riley waited for her outside the office, no longer in uniform but in a sundress, her smile bright as sunlight. Madison slipped her hand into Riley's, ignoring the curious stares of employees and strangers alike. She remembered that drunken night, that reckless vow. "I'll marry the next girl who walks into my office." It had been a joke. A desperate, angry declaration. But looking at Riley now, Madison knew it had been prophecy. Sometimes fate mocks you. Sometimes it breaks you. But if you're lucky, sometimes it gives you exactly the girl you didn't know you were waiting for. And Madison, ruthless CEO, builder of empires, breaker of rules, had finally found the one thing she couldn't control: her heart. This time she was glad to lose. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.